Welcome, viewers, to the second part of my conversation on CXO transitions with Mr. Anjani Mandal, founder CEO of Fortigo Network Logistics. You can access the first part through a link posted at the end of this post, plus my YouTube and Spotify channels, details of which are given at the end of this video. Welcome, Anjani. Happy to have you with us.
Thank you.
So moving on, Anjani, so from Manipal Technologies, you moved to Fortigo Network Logistics. So I want to ask several questions here, but to start off with, what was the transition like? So you were a very successful CEO at Manipal Technologies. So what prompted this move at the height of your success? And the other part B of my question is, how did you actually identify the business opportunity at Fortigo?
When I moved back into Bangalore and during the travels, it was very clear that it's a platform business which is going to be dominating in everything. So whether it is in one or the other, Amazon had already happened. And we used to be serving the books industry, publishing, and Amazon supplying, and some of the joint venture partners had also already worked with Amazon. So the exposure to Amazon was already there. And there were some wannabes who were starting here. And that released one to get exposed to the understanding of platform, whether for music or for books like Amazon or for content like YouTube. Those were the early days. And also, of course, search like in Google. So once one understood that, and one did hear about funding from venture capital and the business of valuation, which was beyond just a multiplier of the profitability of that particular company, genuine value based on what it can do in the future. And those were the starting days. So a combination of availability of venture capital fund, understanding of digitization, the nascency of the platform business in India, and combined with that, the complications of supply chain, which is very, very unorganized in India. It just all came together, and I do believe that luck has a significant part to play in anyone's career. But in luck, when the opportunity is sitting in front of you, if you do not take it up, then it's your bad. So you pick up the opportunity when it is there. It was there, and so I moved forward. So if you ask me what it was, I think a lot of luck and chance and things coming together. It was just about picking it up from there.
Yeah. So before we move on to Fortigo, just for the understanding of my viewers, what exactly is the business model of Fortigo Network Logistics?
So there are two parts to it. It's a platform business. One is to provide services to large enterprises across the globe, across the country. These are global leaders. You have the HUL and you have the local leaders like Parley or Excite, and all the FMCG companies, a lot of industrial companies, including metals like Tata's, Jindals. They need to move a lot of material, but they would like to interact with organized sector. Okay, and everyone knows that efficiency in supply chain is a mandatory part of the entire business of providing decreasing cost and increasing value. It's actually also providing digital transparency of your entire transaction is the expectation. So when you create a platform, you do that technology enablement for each and every part of it, starting from the customer till when they say, I need, till the time it is not executed and it is served. And that is the technology enablement, in addition to the actual physical process of getting the products loaded onto a truck and then delivering to the place and requirement of their distribution channel, right? So that is what. Now, the second part of it was the technology enablement of the customer themselves, and they're managing their ecosystem. We would not be the only service provider. They would have, for their risk mitigation, multiple service providers. So them being able to have a SaaS product, software as a service platform, on which they can manage their own supply chain logistics was the second part. So it's about really giving that interface on the buy side, as I would call it. On the sell side, which is, let's say, the providers of the service. So the service provider is usually a small truck owner. Now, when you're providing services nationally, there could be maybe 100,000 truckers or 600,000 truckers who would be used across the country in order to be able to serve that requirement of the large company. Out of those 600,000, you probably use only a few hundred, but which hundred is the question. So to get and identify which hundred, you have to be in touch with hundreds of thousands of truckers who will let you know whether they are available or not on the platform. And you choose based on the kind of truck, their willingness to move in that particular route which is required at a competitive price. And then you do that digital. And all of this has to happen in a few hours. So you have to send out the message and they have to respond, and then you negotiate and you provide that service to them using that particular chain. So you are the intermediary who's taking all the risk of moving it in time and what you would call as in full. Okay, in full means without any damage. And you then find through your digital platform, the service provider, choose them for each and every transaction and make and enable that particular movement.
So, Anjani, so what were the challenges that you faced during the founding and growth of Fortigo?
Surprisingly, it was no different from all the other places. So I went back into basic principles. Okay, you have to create value, number one. You have to create value for each and everyone in your ecosystem, not just your shareholder, but it's also for your employee, your customer, and your service provider or your supplier. People in the industry, mostly an unorganized sector, would not have those skills to be able to understand digital technology. You have to enable them, then you have to take the pains to be able to teach them. And one of the things which people very often forget, that in the unorganized sector, people do more things by intuition rather than an organized way of doing things. And when they do that and they become ad hoc, it causes a problem in the entire supply chain, because they could be doing one thing at one point of time, but respond in a different fashion at another. So when you focus them on growth, customer service, and continual improvement in the metrics, then it becomes far more predictable. Okay. All of them were challenges. The people skills, the presence of processes, the familiarity with technology being limited, and definitely because it was a platform that was as such new in all the industries, that was also a challenge. So you work with the people, you align them in a certain fashion, and take things forward. As I truly believe that it's really about getting the people aligned into a single fashion and focus on value creation, which essentially means growth and providing continuous value to your entire ecosystem. That essentially was what it was.
And Anjani, when you talk about aligning people, I think that's what I kept, among the many things you said, and left a few things unsaid, whether it's in Manipal Technologies or in Fortigo. This alignment seems to be a kind of a thread. And for this alignment to happen, I'm sure people look at the leader, at the CEO, for displaying certain principles. So can you talk about some of those principles that you have followed, which are your North Stars?
So at a fundamental level, everyone responds to another individual in the company as an individual and a human being. What do you expect of a human being? What I expect of another person is what everyone expects of me. So if I give to them, which essentially is, I say it straight, I say it consistently, I do not change things from one to the other. When you're in a position of power, all the persons have to be treated with a certain amount of fairness. I would say just be a good human being, so that people start expecting that if I ask for this, I will get. Why? Because it is the correct thing to do for the business, for the customer, for people in general. Being a good human being is, let's say, the guiding philosophy. But in addition to that, it is control yourself with respect to ad hocism. It's very, very easy to get irritated or annoyed with someone who's not performing or not aligning. But you have to be fair, because you have to define certain outcomes and certain ways of behavior. And if people align, you have to reward them accordingly. But in the process, they do not get the result. There has to be a penalty, but not a severe penalty. And if you try to reward someone beyond someone else for reasons of knowing them from before or because he was good at one point of time, it doesn't work. Fairness means you have to be business wise and you have to be business true. And people watch you. You have to be consistent on that. And always be business wise and be focused on the business. And every time you take people first decisions as far as possible. But they should be able to understand and predict you for your consistency and your principles. It becomes so much easier. I think it's just about being a good human being.
Being a good human being, being consistent, being fair, and doing unto others what you'd expect them to do for you. Fantastic. So this is people would get a great degree of comfort from a person who's consistent and predictable, rather than running it on the latest whim, fancy, saying inconsistent things. So great, Anjani. Thanks so much for your generous sharing of your career transitions and all the learnings for my CXO audience. I wish you the very best in your future journey.
Thank you.
Dear viewers, this ends my conversation with Mr. Anjani Mandal, a CXO transited from a corporate career to founding and building Fortigo Network Logistics. Do join us in a few days for my next dialogue with another top leader. Thank you for listening in. If you like this video, do like, share, and subscribe to my channel to help me reach out to the right audience. Thank you.